Hey, ladies, welcome to another episode of the Revitalized Womanhood podcast. I am joined today with the very handsome Rick Trimmer,
I was just looking at all my gray.
my husband.
Holy
Oh,
cow.
dear.
They
I
say
was
it's
looking at mine
distinguishing,
today,
but
too.
I think that's when
Well,
you have
for men it
less.
is. For women, it's not.
I think it is when you have less gray than black, but when it starts being more gray than black, it's like, now you're old. Distinguished is gone out the window.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, I wanted to have you on my podcast. I've been on your podcast. We were talking about travel, which I don't even know. Do you feel like that went well? Did that go the way you wanted it to go? We kind of went off topic a little bit a few times.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't go according to plan, but I think that's fine. That's more real. It went
It's
good.
organic. Well, I wanted to have you on because you are running a new community. You are the creator and founder of a new movement, M42 Adventures, and the founder of the private community, The Genesis, inside that community. And I am so excited about it and passionate about it with you. So I talk about it. But what I keep getting back is people saying, "Oh, I thought that was a men's community," or "I thought that was a hunting community." And I'm like, no, 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 no. No, and I'm kind of sick of explaining it. So
Absolutely.
I wanted to have you on the Revitalized Womanhood podcast to talk about this because this is something that we both believe in and is very near and dear to our hearts and how we live our lives and how we raise our kids. So I'm just going to jump out of here because I think most of my listeners pretty much know who you are. You're my husband. You've been on here before. But as far as the founder of M42 Adventures, what inspired you to start this movement and create a private community centered around getting people outdoors?
We were just talking about this morning. We actually have 1.5 employees here. We just hired our first full-time employee a couple, maybe 4 weeks ago now. He started in end of October. And we were just talking about this morning. We have a meeting at the beginning of every Monday. Now it used to just be me sitting here by myself. Now I have people that I can talk to that will listen, that I pay to listen. And we were talking about M42 Adventures. And I talked to a couple people this weekend about it, just people out and about, and they're excited about it. And this is a startup, as good as anyone with Revitalized. People don't realize what this takes, especially where we've never done this. This is not in our wheelhouse, podcasting. Like you just said in the beginning, people think that this was a outdoor or a hunting brand because that's what I love and that's what I was showing because that's a big part of me. But when you're building these businesses and these brands, we had a brand consultant come in a couple weeks ago and he says, well, look what you're showing. The background of your podcast is, dead animals. What do you think people are going to think? And so that's why now you can see behind me, it's this big mural that we've made and trying to show people that it's not just that is a part of it. But the reason I started this is because I believe sincerely 1000% that the world needs it. I 100 in my bones think that the world needs what we're teaching, which is the 4 pillar, which you have in your community, which I think every community should have that. I think that's why they are in most communities, because if your finances, your fitness, your relationships, and your spirituality, mental health are not in order or in check, it's hard to do anything else. If you're broke, it's hard. You can't afford things. If you're out of shape, you can't do things. If you're mentally broken or your relationships are draining you, then you don't want to go do anything. You don't want to get out of bed. So that's first and foremost. That's what we work on, is making sure people are in a position to go do these adventures, whether, like I said, financially, physically, whatever
To
it may
create
be.
lives full of like purpose and fulfillment
Yeah,
rather
and
than just what we were talking about this morning, where it's just simplified down to the 9 to 5 or, I don't even know how to simplify it even more.
Yeah,
without
it's
saying this morning.
it's kind
The
of a
hamster
hamster
wheel,
wheel,
yeah.
where I have a fear that
Expectations.
some people find comfort in that and in the, in routine, which I'm not here to argue with. We all have our different things that we enjoy, but for me, I truly believe, whether it's, we take it to the extreme, you and I, where we go travel the world for years at a time. We go on dozens of adventures every year. We don't need to sleep in our own bed or go to the same gym or anything like that. And I know that's extreme, but I do believe that if people even just did a couple of these, and it's different from just going on a vacation. A vacation is huge and very important. I believe getting away and unplugging and spending time with your family or friends is very important. But
Experiencing other cultures and out of the bubble.
Yeah, the way I think M42 is different is we do that also, but we also take you out of your comfort zone with other people. You're coming out to Africa. We took 21 people to Africa last year, many of whom have never met. And so not only do you come home with the experience and, all the things that Africa gave you, but you come home with friendships that you're not going to get. We actually had a firearm experience here in southern Utah a couple weeks ago. And there was a gentleman there. I won't mention any names, but there was a gentleman there that is somewhat connected to our family, is connected to our family, right? And he came out, and a week later, I've never met him, and he signed up for that experience through somebody else, not even through me, through one of our other guys. Came out, met me, we hit it off, and then he came to my son's birthday party a week later, and you said, yeah, he's coming. And I says, oh, that's cool. And she says, it's because he went to that experience and now he feels comfortable around you.
Right. Well, and I said that about Amy's husband as well.
Yeah, it's so hard. And it's not so hard for me and you necessarily, but it is hard for me and you and everybody to make good, deep connections with people at our age.
Yeah.
You can go to the gym and say hi and fist bump somebody, and high five them. But to find people that have your same values, that want to go and shoot guns or go mountain biking or go surfing, that's just another level of a connection.
That fit organically in your life.
Yeah, was there
a specific moment or experience that sparked this idea that was like, wait a minute,
it was me doing it.
What? We need to. Well, I know it was us doing it, but
it was Ryan.
Was there a specific? Oh, it was when you went out to Hawaii with Ryan?
Yeah, because
that got traveling. You thinking about M42.
That was what, 4 years ago?
That
maybe?
Was it before Revitalized?
Yeah, because it was the year after that me and Ryan thought about Revitalized. So it was the year before. Okay,
so it was 2021. So 2021.
So 2020. Okay, so 20. So yeah, 21, 2, 3, 4, 4 years ago then of time. I had to do the math there on my fingers. So 4 years ago, Ryan called up, and we were actually headed to Alaska. We own a fishing boat in Alaska, a personal boat, and we were going up there with friends and family to go like we do every summer. So we were still living, quote unquote, the adventure life. But Ryan called and said, hey, do you want to come out? I've got 8 buddies going to Hawaii to hunt deer with our bows. And I was not a huge archery hunter. I had done it in the past, but yeah, I just didn't catch the bug. You know the stories. Very hard sport, very frustrating. And so I hadn't done it for a decade. He called up, says, hey man, do you have a bow? I says, I think so. I'm not sure. He says, in a week, we're going to Hawaii. Can you make it happen? We had a last minute cancellation. I came to you, and this is another big thing that I tell people. I came to you and said, hey babe, Ryan, who I haven't hung out with in a decade, he's doing some big things. He's rubbing shoulders. It was honestly 90% to go to network and to make friendships. Right. Yeah, I like hunting, and that was cool. But I really was like, man, bow hunting, I really don't want to get back into that. I was nervous. My bow at the time, my bow's a 2007 bow. I still use it to this day.
At the time, it's still.
Yeah, it's the same one. So my bow was like 15 years old. I had different length arrows. You don't understand all this, but I showed up with just this bag of camo, Walmart camo. And I was nervous. I was embarrassed. I showed up and I'm like, I didn't have time to really prepare for this. I talked to you and said, hey, do you care if I go? He rubbed shoulders with some cool people. You said, absolutely. It ended up costing me a few $1,000s just to change our trip, not even the cost of that trip.
Right.
And I look at where some of the, intersections of my life have changed, taking a right or a left. And that was one where I said, yes, I will do it. I will make the sacrifices. I will, it was it would have been much, much easier and less money to say no.
Right.
But I saw something there and I went out and I went, and that is where it clicked for me that this is so healthy. And it was with not with my wife and kids, it was with friends, with guys. And you look
Right.
at that now, you know better than anyone. Look at what that one trip, and again, I tell people it's not just going on the trip, but it's engaging. I had conversations with these people, I got their phone numbers. I got their
You were
addresses so that we
interested
could
in them. You wanted to create a
100%,
community. You were trying to create a
100%.
community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could go on the same experience and be a fly on the wall and get something out of it,
Bump on
but
the log. Yeah.
not near what I got out of it, because I was like, I am here to try to make some friends that have like-minded interests. These guys are all, they're just my type of people. Good fathers,
This
good
is
husbands,
yeah. This is
And
a
so that
huge
was it.
part. I love this point you're making because it is so important to what we're doing in your community, in my community, in trying to, and I don't know if the best word to say is like, look at me, I'm doing this. It's more like, but you do have to have
Come
proof
with me.
that, yeah, it's like
Yeah,
you
we're
cannot
inspiring.
just sit. Yeah, you cannot just sit and expect life to change by expecting life to change. You have to put things in motion. You have to make a change. If you want to see a change, you have to make a change. You have to interact. You have to engage. You have to, like I tell my women in my community, if you want to be a more confident person, if you in your circle or community, whatever, and you think, gosh, I just love how confident she is, or I just love how outgoing she is. And you think, I could never do that. Or I love how this person can put together a cute outfit. I could never do that. And it's like, then do something about it.
Mhm.
Go start getting out of your comfort zone and start saying to someone, a stranger, hey, I hope you have a nice day today. Or walk up to a vet that's wearing his cute little vet hat and say, hey, thank you for your service. These are just small interactions that seem silly, but it's like this. I want community. I want friendships. I want connection that's deeper than just surface level. Well, guess what? You can't just come and expect other people to come to you. You have to make that happen. You had a decision to change all of our plans. Most people wouldn't do that. Most people wouldn't change plans. They think, no, the plan's made. It's set. I can't. Sorry. But you thought kind of like outside like you do, your perspective, your brain. Anybody who knows you knows that Rick is not thinking inside this box. He's thinking inside this bigger circle outside of the box. And it's like, wait a minute, you sat back and thought, if I do this, it's going to hurt a little bit. It's going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to have to do some things, juggle some things. But maybe, just maybe, the bigger picture on the other side of this is something that I'm looking for that's deeper and bigger than just changing a flight. And it did. It worked out. It ended up being that way.
Well, and that's what's crazy is you look at that trip, really kicked off my relationship with Ryan. Some of these other people, it's like, it's just funny because it's the trunk of the tree for that instance. And you look at all the
Mhm.
branches, and the branches
Yeah,
are Revitalized Womanhood is here because of that trip. It would not
absolutely.
exist if I didn't go on that trip.
Right.
M42 would not exist if I did not go on that trip.
I
My
wouldn't have
friendship,
Kelly.
you wouldn't have Kelly. I wouldn't go to
Everybody in
Minnesota.
this podcast knows I wouldn't have Kelly if you hadn't gone on that trip.
Yeah, and so that's what I think that's what has inspired me, and I was actually here, last week, and this new hire that we brought on, Chase, I every day it's funny because I get into this little, I don't know what it is, but I get into this cheering mood of M42, and we're doing this cool thing, and last Thursday, he says to me, "Rick, I just wanna let you know that what you're doing is really commendable." And I says, "Why? Why?" And he says, "I know your financial position. I know where you're at in life. I know that you don't have to be in this room right now doing a Zoom trying to help people with their finances. You don't have to be doing a Zoom next week trying to get people to travel more. I don't. You don't need to be, Eugenia, do not need to be sitting behind that microphone." And what people don't realize is you're putting yourself out there. You're exposing yourself to judgment and all these different things that it's easier to just go sit on a beach somewhere with my kids. But I truly feel, and I don't know what it is. I don't know. I can't explain it. And I don't think you could either necessarily. But what makes us, I have lots of friends who are very successful, more successful than I am financially, that have the time that could start M42 Adventures, but they don't want to. They have no desire. I don't know what makes you and me, and I really don't. I've tried to really analyze this. Why am I, and I don't want to call it beating my head against a wall, but a lot of times it feels like that.
Sometimes it is.
It really does, because, and I always use the analogy of, my 4-year-old. It's like, hey, Locke, don't touch the stove. It's hot. Don't touch the stove. And they reach up and touch the stove and burn their hand and cry. And it's like, I have so many people who, want to be financially stable. And it's like, don't buy the new truck. Don't buy the new truck. And they buy the new truck. Or, and so, and and I struggle with that because I can see, and I think you can see how you could go into these, these people's lives and really help them if they would just follow it. But again, if somebody looked at me, I'm sure there's somebody way bigger and more successful in all aspects that I'm doing right now that could look at me and say, Rick, if you wouldn't have done that, you'd be further ahead. Who am I to judge why
Yeah,
my
but
way's
further
wrong?
ahead, quote unquote. Yeah, exactly. It's all relative. And I think I can pinpoint it because I actually have thought about this. I've had 2+ years of thinking about it, of
Yeah,
beating
you've
my
been
head
doing this
against
a
the
lot longer
wall.
than me.
So I
Yeah.
have pinpointed it because I do love it. And anytime you say, well, just quit. And I'm like, no, this is fulfilling me, right? I'm getting something out of this. And it's because we have felt the lack of community. We have felt that when we lost everything, it kind of felt isolating, right? It felt like we were kind of alone on this island, that it was just
Yeah.
us and we had to figure this out. And
Yeah.
then when we
A very
left to
small.
travel,
Mhm.
yeah, when we left to travel and we lost so many people that didn't support us or that kind of talked behind our backs, and it was people that we thought, well, you were our friends, you should be supporting us. And so we've felt those stings of lack of community, versus we have also felt different ones where we found friendships traveling and now they're our dear friends and we go visit them more and more. Or you found your community through Ryan, and I've found my community here and I'm building it. We've experienced both ends of this. And now it's us wanting to say it gets better. If you do this, we did it. It gets better. It's just like saying, if you don't buy that truck and you save this money, you could do a lot more things on the other side of that. So it's not like a quantifiable success. Yeah, reward. We've felt it. It's an emotional. Why do people go volunteer at food banks? Why do people volunteer anywhere? Why do people give? It's like an act of service. And I truly believe, I don't know what the quote is. I'm sure many people have said it more eloquently than I ever could. But the act of service, giving your time and the act of you serving others, is more gratifying and more fulfilling than any selfish gift you can give to yourself. Do you know what I mean? And I believe in that.
Well, and it's all what came to mind when you say that too is it's always funny because you look at how many times. Well, for me, this happens quite often because I spend a lot of time sitting in blinds or in trees and stuff, by myself.
Yeah.
And there's been hundreds of times where I'm sitting there and the sun's setting and the sky's orange, and I'm like, that is beautiful. I wish my wife was here to see this. Look at that. I wish Hayes was here to see this. And so I think you're right. It is. And I tell everybody this, we're not martyrs, we're not, I am getting, not, I'm trying, I guess I am. I'm not going to say I'm not, but I am getting as much out of this as I give. And like you're saying, it's in different ways. That is probably a big part of the reason as well. For M42 Adventures, last year we went to Alaska, we went to Hawaii, we went to Africa, and it filled my life, filled my cup. And
Right.
so that's M42 Adventures is for those people that we're trying to serve and we're trying to get outside and get in better situations, but also, and that's what's also different with our community, is it's for youth and, families, men and women,
Right.
mothers and daughters, fathers and sons, mothers and sons. We had somebody reach out the other day saying they want to bring their son on one of our UTV adventures
Yeah, fun.
because the dad's not around,
Mhm.
and I thought that's awesome. Bring him out. Let's
Yeah,
let him
good for
be
her.
around some men and let him experience some of that stuff that she's not familiar with. And so
Yeah.
that's what I think is pretty cool about this. But yeah, it's, for me, it's just really, really trying to, the world's hard enough. I believe that I know it can be very challenging for so many different reasons. And I hope that M42 Adventures can shine some light into some people's lives here and there is my sole purpose.
I think it helps take the focus off the things that we start to get so obsessed over. Like we become so small and close-minded, obsessing over these things that the world is becoming a very selfish, self-absorbed. I mean, of course there's beauty and of course there's love and kindness. Of course there's that as well, but also we're being fed all of these things that makes it ugly. It makes me I don't turn on the news. I don't look at any of that stuff because I don't want to know. I don't want my brain to go into those places. But M42 and communities like M42 and Revitalized and Order of Man, it's like, no, there are still these kind of people that want to do things that are more fulfilling personally, like personal growth, self-development, learning experiences, getting out of your comfort zone. That if there were more of these things, I think it would be a more peaceful, we're so divided. It would be a more peaceful, like, look, yeah, we may have differences of opinions and beliefs and whatever, but we can all agree that this outdoor cooking experience was awesome. Or we can all agree that learning how to safely do a horseback riding tour was a great experience. I think that there's some commonality in that could help all of us get out of this zoned in. The world is becoming this horrible, horrifying place, and
Well,
think
yeah,
outside of that.
and I agree. And I also think that along those lines of the world getting scary and being very, you know, on the edge all the time of war and catastrophe, we've lost our roots. We don't know how to a lot of people most people live in cities now. Most of our population is in big cities. They don't know how to shoot a gun. They don't know how to shoot a bow, which is even a step further. They don't know how to break down an animal. They don't know how to start a fire. They don't know how to cook over the fire. And so a lot of this
Safely
stuff,
hike somewhere,
yeah, just how to hike
clean
and how to
water.
plan. I mean, yeah, exactly, how to survive. So that's a lot of the things that we're doing where not only is it fun and enjoyable, but someday, heaven forbid, it could be something that, on our UTV experience, we teach you how to change tires. We teach you how to
Yeah.
get unstuck. Like you said, on horses, it's how to pack lightly. And again, for me, when we're hiking, I used to pack this backpack that weighed 50 pounds. One trip I went on, I literally packed a loaf of bread, a jar of mayonnaise, a jar of mustard, a package of meat,
Was
literally
that
on my
us when we did the Narrows?
Narrows, yeah, in Zion.
You
Remember?
pulled out a whole pack of Oreos and
Oreos. Yeah, and we stop, and my brother Cody's like, "Bro, this is like a 6-mile hike." And I'm like, "I know. It is. It's scary. It's
yeah,
far."
we were like canyoneering, we were like rappelling.
Yeah, going through water, and we stopped for lunch, and I pulled out, a
A
5-course meal,
spread.
and they're like, "No wonder you're so tired. No wonder your legs are tired. You've been carrying all this extra weight and blah blah blah." And now, it's like I know that I need these things and I need salt, salt to keep my muscles from cramping, and I need this much water. And so there's a lot of stuff in this that is not just fun. It's also you learn just little things. Like I'm teaching my boys how to run a ratchet strap. You were there when we went on the UTV one a few weeks
Yeah.
ago, and I spent a lot of time teaching my 2 young sons how to work ratchet straps to tie stuff down, and and I'm like, my boys, by the time they're 18, will know a lot of this stuff that will make them better men, better husbands, better fathers, just in case. We all just assume that when we flip the switch, the lights are going to come on, or,
Yeah.
AAA will answer our phone call. And so that's a big part of this as well, is making people feel more self-reliant. And I think that's a huge bonus that you get from these experiences. And I look at M42 is all these adventures, but the real meat on the bones is not just the adventure, not just the surfing, but all these little things that trickle out that you're not even aware that you're getting, you know?
Right, right. Well, what your community focus on such a wide range of activities
Mhm.
from we have, let's see, surfing, mountain biking, or
Golf.
what, motorcycles. I mean, so
There's
many. If
35,
anybody hops in
35.
here, yeah, there's 35. How did you decide which activities to include and why are they important for connecting people?
So we actually had, I think we had 36 at one time. I think we actually have it down to 25 now. To be honest, we had like slacklining.
What's that?
That's those guys that like, we see in San Diego where they're on those lines
Oh,
where they're
yeah, where
like
they're
high
balancing
wire.
on them?
Yeah. So we had everything. I mean, we
Okay.
had like horseshoes. We had a lot, and decided to kind of rein it back in to where it's the main ones that people do. So 80% of the population does these 20. There are these little niches where people go out and do some of these other things, but yeah, basically just trying to get people outside. We have uh, outdoor photography is one, which I would love to get better at, right? We go to
Yeah, I
Africa,
would
be able
too.
to take
Yeah.
a camera, go up to Yellowstone, take some photos of scenery and animals and things like that. So basically we went through and just looked up all outdoor activities, everything we could find. A lot of them are people's passions. The firearm one, Chase, is an avid firearm. He has a academy here in St. George. So just kind of that, and then we'll add and subtract from there. If somebody came in and says, "Hey, man, I love slacklining and I love it, and this is why it's good," then and he wants to mentor it or she wants to mentor it. All of our channels, what's unique in here is my community, our community, the Genesis isn't me. I don't know all these things. I'm not the expert. And so what we've done is we are actually bringing individual mentors in. And so I was trying to do the math. I think we have 5 now. So the Genesis has been open for 90 days. It's open until the end of the year for free. And then we're going to start charging next year. Obviously we have, you know, expenses with this. So it's one of the things we got to do, but we have 5 mentors. We have and we're adding all the time. So, but that's what's unique about this is I'm learning about firearms from a certified. I mean, he has all this wall full of accolades. Our motorcycle mentor was a professional motocross rider, Damian Plots. So he has lived motorcycles for his whole life, and so he knows. You were on his Zoom. You were on his Zoom. We've ridden motorcycles. I
Yeah.
raced
Yeah.
motorcycles when I was younger. I mean, I've raced dirt bikes. I've had 4 or 5
I
different
had no
motorcycles.
interest in it whatsoever, and it was very interesting. I had
Me
0
too.
interest.
And I do
I was
have
just there
interest.
to support you guys,
Yeah.
and I was like, "This is really interesting."
Yeah, it's funny how and I think that's what's cool about if you're a student in life and somebody really knows what they're talking about. How many
Yeah.
times have we been, we're going down the road and we see a little guy playing a saxophone on the side of the road and it's like, I don't really care about the saxophone. I'm not really interested, but you pull over and I spend an hour there just listening to him talk and play and his love for it. And I'm like, I leave and I'm like, oh, I love the saxophone now. So I think that's when you go and listen to these people and they talk about their passions and it is their passion. They love it. It is
Yeah, it
that you
draws
can
you in.
it draws you in that's what I took from that was I thought, well, I know motorcycles. I know what he's going to say. But again, like you said, I'll be on
Yeah.
there just to hear it. I left with like 20 new bits of information that I didn't even know existed. He went into
Right.
electric dirt bikes and these other motorcycle, avenues that I didn't even know. I can't remember what they're called, like not trail bikes, but anyway, just crazy cool stuff. And that's what I think. I talked to a lot of people. I had a buddy of mine who back in the day says, "Hey man, I've got a lot of money, but I'm bored. I don't really have any hobbies." And I remember going through a list of my hobbies. I'm like, "Well, let's go hunt." I don't want to hunt. I don't want to kill an animal. Okay. Let's go camp. I don't want to camp. That sounds, well, I'd just rather stay in a hotel room. Let's go ride a dirt bike. I only had 5 or 6 at that time, but I never hooked him.
Mm.
But now that we have 25 or 30, I can say, "Hey, let's go golf." We're working on a golf experience in Scotland. And
Right.
we go over there for a week and we're going to golf and visit castles and taste the food. And our Costa Rica surf experience, we actually have a professional surfer coming to teach people from beginner. I've never surfed ever, start to finish, but he's a professional Costa Rican surfer. He was in their Olympics. And so that's what I think is cool. And I tell people, a lot of people look at it like I'm going to spend this much money to go surfing. And that's where I think you have
Right.
it wrong. I think you look at it like I'm going to spend this much money to go meet amazing people, try new food, see new parts of this beautiful world, and surf. And the value that I get out of most of my experiences is not the hunt, it's not the fishing, it is the relationships. We went on a road trip after that Hawaii trip, very first Hawaii trip. We got home and I said, "Hey," it was
Right.
during kind of COVID, it was messy travel, and I hit up these people and we went and visited what, 3, 4? So we went to visited Scott,
Sean, Scott,
Sean, Matt,
Matt.
Ryan.
Yeah.
4 out of the 8 people that I had met, 3 out of the 8, I knew Ryan. We went and met on our road trip, stayed at their homes in California, in Houston, in Minnesota, in Maine. That's beautiful. That's
Well,
beautiful.
and I think people they kind of just get in their own ways, because I definitely think, and why I love that you also have these core categories like us, but outside of my core categories, I personally, there's a book to come. I think there are pillars that you have to have in your life to be a successful human being. I think you have to have mindset. I think you have to have self-confidence. I think you have to have gratitude. And I think you have to have, anyway, that doesn't matter. Service, basically, like giving
Mhm.
to others type stuff. But, and I think these kinds of things combined, but with mindset, I think that one is so important, because someone else doing a road trip might just think point A to point B, right? They're not thinking about, but you took relationships that you created, turned them into experiences. So that's a different mindset. It's kind of like saying, like you said earlier, the student mentality, especially for like women like us. We get out of this, out of high school, out of however far we get in college, and then we become moms, and it's like, "Zoop, I don't have to educate myself anymore. I don't have to know how to talk to educated people. I'm just dealing with kids all day long. I meet the moms at the park. I have mommy and me, whatever." But when you do tap back into these things, because we look at school and we think, "Oh, it was boring. It was all of this information that was forced on us. I don't want to do that anymore. Blah, 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 blah." But you've watched this happen with me when I finally opened my mind to allowing for things that actually interested me, that you had been saying, "Read this book, read this book, read this book." And I was like, "No, no, 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 no." That it was like a whole new world opened up, that was like, "Oh my gosh, now if I look at this in this way, this is so much more enjoyable." It's like taking a picture. Why do you take a picture? You take a picture
Capture a
because you want
moment.
to remember. Yeah, you want to remember that moment. Well, then what happens with that picture after you take it? It goes and gets lost in your phone. Why not? What if you had this experience and you loved it so much, and you could soak so many more moments of joy out of it by reliving that moment, by going back into your phone and looking back through your pictures and remembering these moments? But you can't have those if your objective is point A to point B. You have to
Yeah.
expand your thinking to think, "Okay, my day is like a hamster wheel." Well, not really, because I enjoy my life. I got to look deeper inside my day and figure out what the things in it are making me happy. So that's like with these experiences. It's like, yeah, your purpose might be going to surf, but if you can open your mind wider than just this is a surfing experience, you're getting networking, you're getting culture, you're eating amazing foods, you're, laughing with people, creating stories, whatever. There wasn't
Well,
a question in there.
you can that just kinda fizzled
It
out.
was a thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go. Yeah, and I think that's what, there's a lot in there. There's a lot, I had lots of things come to mind. I don't have a notepad in front of me, which I usually do, but yeah, I 100% agree on that. I think, like you said, mindset is huge. Gratitude is huge. Those are 2 of my main ones, and like you said, I've told people this for 20 years, long before any of this trying to help other people stuff, just trying to help myself. But I have always had a good mindset. I'm grateful for that. I've never really struggled
Yeah.
with depression or anything like that. And so I think if we can help people pull out of that, and I think the reason that I have not struggled with that so much is I lost my father, so I've always had this mindset that I'm, not on borrowed time, but I just have been faced with mortality since I was born. Everybody's always talked around me about how my dad died at 27. His life was cut short. He couldn't raise his kids. He didn't have time to travel much, it was just brief. So I better get it in. We get one life, right? And so I've always had that mindset of I want to just consume as much as I can and experience as much as I can. And then the gratitude that I can. That's the other thing. It's like we've lost everything to where we couldn't. And we know what that tastes like. And so now when I wake up and I get emotional everywhere I go, everywhere I go. I cried in a Minnesota tree stand. I cried in a Jeep in Africa. I cried on a cliff in Utah. I do. Everywhere I go, I get emotional. And I think it's like you said, if you sit up there and you say, man, I am blessed. I'm blessed that, and you can get down to really, really basic, for some of us, basic, not for a lot of us, but I'm able to walk out to this cliff. A lot of people can't
Yeah.
walk. I'm able
Right.
to take time off work. I'm able to have a child that can walk beside me. Some people can't have kids, so it's like we can all go down. And one of my favorite, uh, I don't know if it's not a cartoon, but like a story. I guess it was in a little cartoon thing, but it was a guy who sees a guy. I'm gonna butcher this horribly, but the concept is there's always somebody. There's a guy walking, and the guy in the wheelchair is grateful that he's not stuck in bed, and the guy walking is grateful he's not in a wheelchair, and the guy who's running is grateful that he doesn't have to have crutches. And
Mhm.
so you can always go back a little bit and say, yeah, I can't have children, but at least I'm healthy, or at least
Right.
I have a caring husband, or I think we can all find some gratitude, and you just got to go find that where you find it. But yeah, that's you know again, you were saying on our travels, I the mindset of engaging and getting out there and making yourself vulnerable. People don't realize that when I went on that Hawaii trip, it was in June. Yeah, June. And a few months later, we decided to go road trip the US a couple months later. And we went and visited Sean Villalobos, has he been on your podcast?
Yeah.
You've been on
Yeah,
his.
Jamie and Sean have both.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
They don't
Okay. Oh, they don't
do
have a
they have
podcast.
one? Jamie
No, you're right.
Jamie and Sean have both been on mine.
So your people know Sean Villalobos, great person, Jamie as well. Sean was on
Mhm.
mine, but I knew him for a week. And it was funny because when we first met, we were the first ones in Hawaii together. Never met him. I see this guy carrying a bow, and I'm like, "Hey, are you here with the Ryan Mickler group?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, hop in. We're riding around together." He's got a gold chain on, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm
You
judging
told
him.
this story on your
Oh, I
episode.
am
I was
judging
loving
him.
it.
I can't. Yeah, I'm looking at him,
I
and I'm
love
like,
it.
"Who is this guy?" I thought Ryan was rubbing shoulders with these, influential people. This guy. And we rode around and we went grocery shopping together for a couple hours. We got in a few hours before everybody else. And in my couple hours, I'm like, man, he's a good dude, and you have to knock down your, expectations and whatever. And so I just openly wanted to know who he was and what he was about. It was cool because neither one of us ever talked about money or anything like that. So we get home. I knew he lived in California. I had no idea what he did. I didn't know anything else about him. I just knew he was a good person, good sense of humor. We laughed. We had a good time. I called him up and said, "Hey, man, do you remember me? I met you a couple months ago. We want to come out, my family, and can we come stay with you?" And he gave me his address, and
Right.
we're driving around, and we get out into this place, and I'm like, whoa, it's huge, right? He lives on 7 acres.
Oh, each of the houses looked like tiny vineyards, like little
Yeah.
Tuscan vineyards.
Yeah,
Like, it looked like we were in Tuscany.
Yeah, the Rams quarterback was his neighbor, remember? I don't know any names, but he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, they had just won the Super Bowl that they had gone to. But anyway, we pull up to his gate. He's got a gate. And we go and we stayed at his house. We had a pool party. He cooked us dinner. Jamie and we sat out on the porch while the kids played in the pool and jumped on the tramp. And it was like that. I remember just sitting there in that moment thinking, man, I'm glad I talked to him. I'm glad I opened my mouth. I'm glad I got his phone number. And so that's what I encourage people, that you never know what's going to happen if you, and I think so many people are spectators, and I've done this as well, where it's scary to get up in front of people and talk, or go up to people and talk. You put yourself out there, and you don't want to look stupid. But I just encourage people to do it. Like you said in the very beginning, just
Right.
go up there and get out of your comfort zones, and you never know. I was actually at Hayes's baseball game the other night. You remember you left me there uh in the freezing
Because
cold.
I'd been to all the rest
Yeah,
myself.
but so I had to stay for his second game, which anybody who kids play baseball, maybe you guys like it, but holy cow, what a sport. What a sport. Most boring sport I've ever seen. Like 2 hours of time and 3 minutes of action. But anyway, so I'm there and I'm just like, wow, I'm bored. This is crazy. And a guy's dog comes walking up next to me, a little poodle thing, all fluffy. And I start petting it and, playing with it. And the guys come walking up, and I thought I could just say hi. Hi, how's it going? And turn and look at the game
Which is
again,
what most people do.
which is what most people do. And I don't know how it happens with me. I don't know what happens, but towards
Source
you,
of a joke even. People joke
yeah,
and make fun of
yeah,
us for
they
this.
do.
That we will
I
end
haven't
up
even told,
leaving knowing more about these strangers than
yeah, I haven't even told you this. So I ended up talking to him for about 20 minutes, showing him pictures of our travels. He's showing me pictures of he was in the military. His wife's a doctor here, a spine doctor. He's a stay-at-home dad.
oh, cool.
He just had brain surgery because has
Whoa.
had epilepsy his whole life, and it's the first 9 months without a seizure. He's able to drive again. He's our age, exactly my age, 44.
Wow.
And I got his phone number. He's coming out. Him and his wife are going to come out to our cabin and cook a steak, apparently. And his name's Gary. And we walk out. We're walking out. I says, "Okay, see you, man. Bye." And we go walking out, and I've got my kid. He's got his kid. And he's like, "Oh, that's your boy? He had a good hit." And I'm like, "That's your kid?" "Yeah." And we're walking along, and he goes and gets in a Bronco. We're parked next to each other, and he's like, "Oh, you got a Gladiator. I've got a jacked up Bronco. We should go rock crawling sometime." I said, "Yeah." We leave. We follow each other. He ends up coming on this street and that street. Anyway, he's waving at me, honking at me. I'm waving at him, and then he ends up turning. And
Uh-huh.
I thought that was cool. That was really cool because it seemed like he has been down and out. He's a stay-at-home dad, which I know is very difficult. I did that for a while with you for like 6 or 9 months, and it's very hard. It is hard.
Yeah.
And it felt like he needed that, to be honest. And I was grateful that happened because I want to make more
Mhm.
friends. He seemed like a really cool person, and I thought that's all it takes. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
And we're gonna see him
Right.
tonight. This is the last baseball game. I'm gonna find him again. I'm gonna introduce you if you'll come. And but that's the thing is everybody thinks it has to be in Costa Rica, or it's like it can happen at a dang baseball game in the freezing cold. Just open your mouth, be friendly, and that's another point I wanted to make
Be
is,
curious. Be
yeah, but I think
curious.
I'm not like this
Be
spiritual
curious about
guy.
other people.
Yeah, and be open. Like you said earlier, we
Yeah.
we we always, whenever we see a veteran hat, we go up and say hi and shake their hand and tell them thank you for their service. But I think if you're walking around, and like you said in the beginning, your mindset, if you're walking around open, not even doing it, but just open to with a smile and a welcoming demeanor, you're gonna bring more light into your life. If you walk around with your head
Right.
down, grumpy, looking like, maybe you're not grumpy, but you're just walking around like you are grumpy, people are not going to engage you. So if you want to have more interactions and meet more people, which a lot of people don't, if you want to be alone and that's your what brings you comfort, go for it. I have no problem with that. But those people out there listening that are struggling with having friends and family and people around them that are I tell people all the time, it's like you give what you get. You get what you give. And so if you're out there
Yeah.
walking around Target, I know you. I know when I walk around with you, you're the same way as me. We walk around and you'll be over here talking to some lady in France, for 30 minutes, and I'll be over here talking to some guy, and our kids are over here talking to other kids. And in the beginning, it was scary and hard. Remember, for us, we didn't know, we were kind of intimidated. But now we
Right.
have friends all over the world because we live this life. And so that's basically what this is about. We are sincerely trying to share what brings us joy. I always look at this with my parents and my grandparents. They've always tried to get me to be religious their whole lives. Bless their heart. Bless their heart. I love it. Your parents as well. And I do love it because religion has brought them such love and warmth and comfort that they want to share it. And that's what we're doing here. Travel and friendships and retreats and these adventures have brought me and you so much joy and love and just fulfilled our lives that we're just simply trying to share it with as many people as possible. And if people want to come,
Right.
then let's go.
Good. I'm sorry, I'm texting Ricky while you're kind of talking too. But I have a
Okay.
question. Next question. For
Awesome.
someone who has I was listening.
Okay.
For someone who has never surfed or hunted, this is a good one because I love the episode that you just did with Renz. Renz as the host, one of your members of the community, one of our friends, but he is one of the members of the community. And he is not an expert in lots of different things, right? So for someone who has never surfed, never hunted, never lit a campfire, never even gone on a hike, I don't know, whatever, how would you encourage them to take that first step?
I'm doing it with you. I'm doing it with you. I've never surfed. I went out mountain biking one time with Sean Sullivan. He let me borrow a bike. And I say mountain biking, we went on this little dirt trail. There was no mountain at all. And it was fun. It was good. It's not necessary. You get some exercise, you get out there, you do some fun stuff, you get off your screens, you get to, smell the clean air. But a lot of it was just laughing with Sean, just spending
Right.
time with Sean, who I love and I enjoy being with. So that's what I would say is first of all, I'm there with you. I've never done a lot of these things that we're going to do. Surfing in Costa Rica, I've never done. So the way I'm doing it is I'm doing it. The thing I tell people, my dad was actually talking about this. He went on, again, it's hunting, and I'm sorry for people, but this is what we spend a lot of time doing. But my dad went on a hunt this October with my brother, and they spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, $7,000 each just for the guide. So $14,000 just for the guides. Got there, and the guide was busy. Hired a couple kids last minute because you have to have a guide on this hunt. It's in New Mexico on an elk hunt. And my dad says these kids were so green, they had no idea what they were doing. They hunted for 5 days, didn't see an elk. Finally, my dad said, "You guys don't know how to hunt. We're gonna go find the elk." And they went and found the elk.
Yeah.
My brother got like a raghorn, which this is supposed to be a huge, bull unit. My dad never got an elk. And my dad is, Mike Kendall. He's been on my podcast. He doesn't get upset or angry. And he says, "I want to leave a review," and that's like, whoa, easy, big guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he is so frustrated. The last 3 or 4 conversations I've had with him, this has come up. And he actually said to me, "That's what I think's cool about what you're doing with M42, Rick, is you've done all these adventures, you've done all these experiences, you know how to put these together from my 8 years of travel and finding these people." Costa Rica is being put on by people that we met in Costa Rica on vacation.
And we've
right?
stayed
Julie.
with multiple times. I'm friends with. I've gone and worked
Yeah, we
out
love
with
them.
her. And
We love them. We love them. They're beautiful people. They're from Boston, I think, right? Boston, and they moved to
No.
New York?
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
They're from New Jersey.
Tomato. It's
20
all the
years
same
ago,
up
they moved to
there.
Costa Rica.
It's all the
Let me tell you.
But anyway, they moved down there. They're Americans living down there. They've had all their children in Costa Rica. So, Africa that we just did, I had contacts with Africa. I have contacts with all, Alaska, Hawaii. So all these experiences we're doing, I want people to know that if you're nervous, first of all, we are taking people that have our firearm experience we had 2 weeks ago. We had people that have never fired a gun there. And we had other people that had multiple guns and had been shooting guns their whole lives. So we are aware that we're going to have people that are beginners, and we're going to have people and that's why we have the black belt in jiu-jitsu can teach the white belt, right? And they can teach the black belt. The professional surfer in Costa Rica can teach the beginner, and he can teach the pros, or the people who want to come and do some crazy stuff. So that's the thing that I would say is number one. We're like a travel agency, but we go deeper into these experiences that are curated for this experience and for that
Well, and you
activity
kind of hold their hand while they're doing it
as much as they want.
in the hopes that
Exactly.
then, yeah, and in hopes
Then you
that
can let
they
go.
feel comfortable enough and say, I can do this on my own. Like next time I
100%.
can take my own friends to do this. I
100%.
I
And
feel
that's a good
comfortable
point.
enough now knowing. We've done that so many times. We've gone into places where it's like, yikes, this is going to be so scary. And then afterwards we're like, okay, we can totally do this again.
Absolutely. I always think of Alaska, which is where I went the first few years that I went to Alaska. We paid for a guide, we rented a boat. You know, if I said to somebody that's never gone to Alaska, it's on a lot of people's bucket list to go up there and go fishing, go figure it out. It's like, well, Alaska's a pretty big state. You know, where do you go? Where do you go to fish? How do you do it? Where do you stay? How do you stay? And that's our experience last year. There was 12 of us. You know, we went up, it's like, here's how you get your fishing license. We went into the store with them, bought their fishing license. You know, here's the waders that you need to wear. So that's the thing that we're different is we are actually there with you. And then we're going to have some good, you know, talks and conversations. That's the other thing that I say that's not just about surfing. You know, we're going to hopefully have some good, meaningful talks about what people are going through, me as well. You know, one of the guys that I met on my Hawaii hunt he's a mentor in my community now, Seth Studley, who's a relationship counselor, you know, and it's like I've had lots of conversations with him on ups and downs and problems we all go through and things that, you know, we all need help with. And so it just expands your circle, like you just said, way beyond the week in Costa Rica.
Yeah, absolutely. How does it feel to transition from being the learner, the explorer, to becoming the mentor and the guide for others? How does it feel when you see this reflected in other people? Do you have an experience that you can think of off the top of your head where
For
you're
me to
like,
become the mentor from
that
from the
took,
student?
yeah, that took,
It's
like I
it's
pass this on to somebody, like from Bill. So Bill
yeah,
sees you,
for
you
sure.
wrote him a letter and said, this is
Mhm.
where I'm at. And Bill was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Thank you for checking in with me because I love to hear that. So what about you transitioning
Which
from
we're going to visit
student to mentor?
in a
Yeah,
week.
which we're going to visit in a
We're gonna
couple
go
weeks.
visit him again, you know, my mentor. That's 2 parts. One, we're pretty new. We're technically 9 months old, so there's not a lot of data yet, you know, on that. I've had individual experiences where I've seen
Yeah,
people
you have your own personal stuff.
not dare hold a gun to, by the end of the firearm class, shooting a gun comfortably. I've seen people who didn't know how to fly fish at all, catching their first fish. So I've seen little ones, but as far as long term, we don't have any really statistics on that yet on how it's benefiting their lives. I'm working on, you know, we're working on that to where we'll get a case study. But the other thing with that too is it's what's really weird for me is feeling like I'm a mentor. Like you said in the beginning, I'm still just trying to wrap my head around, you know, because when you start something like this, you know what people are going to think. Are you? I don't know that I know, but I know what I think. But I feel like, you know, you start thinking, man, my friends that do know me are going to be judging me, like who's Rick to be talking about this or who's Rick to be
Oh,
talking
yeah,
about that.
absolutely.
You
Putting
kind of
yourself
start,
out in this kind of public eye is,
yeah,
yeah,
and I
you're
just keep
opening
pushing
yourself up for
forward.
it.
Whenever I have those doubts, and I think, you know, one of my good friends is probably saying, "Oh, who's Rick?" You know, to be talking about money, I could buy him 5 times over. I just push that down and think, you know what, I'm doing better than most people. You know, I retired at 36. I've got my little credentials that I feel like validate me, and I'm going to keep helping people. There's always somebody above you. There's always somebody below you. But I'm still adjusting. To be honest, I'm still adjusting to being a mentor. You know, in my community, I'm the financial mentor and I'm the travel mentor. And our community just opened up 90 days ago. And so
Right.
I've only had one Zoom call on each of those. So I'm new to this. So, but I also, I do believe that, I'm able. And so I'm just trying to wrap my head around that, to be honest.
Good. That's awesome. Well, in helping others, it does. We've talked about this already. It offers its own rewards. I think that it's the same feeling you get when you go serve at a soup kitchen or whatever. I think that that's helping our human kind, right? Other people in this world it's like when we're on our trips and we get off of that cruise, that one place, that little port we were in, that little island, and teaching our kids. We got off and there was these little village kids singing songs for the cruise ship
Oh yeah, like
people.
over by Tahiti.
And yeah, and they just trying to get tips, right? They were working. Our kids were like, "Why are these people here to sing to us? That's so nice of them." And we're like, "Well, they're trying to earn a living." And they had just made all of these balloons in their kids club on the cruise ship the night before, like a bazillion. Yeah, our kids had made all of these balloons. And one of them said, "Let's go get those for them. I think they would really like those." And it's like that brought him so much joy to give those to those kids rather than, you know what I mean? I think there is that in us. That's that human
1000%.
connection. So what has been the most fulfilling part of creating this movement for you so far? And how has that act of service shaped your own personal growth?
Just my experiences, just going through each one, and Utah, we had 32 people come out to my parents' 50-acre ranch, and I had a little girl come up. Ricky's daughter came up and said, "This is the first fish I've ever gutted, and it's the first fish I've ever caught on a fly pole, and first time people have sat on a horse, first time people." So all these little things that just fill your cup. Alaska, I took 12 men. I took 12 men to Alaska last summer, and one of them was like 70 something years old. It was a couple of the people's dad, and they chipped in and bought his ticket to this experience. And he had a jar on their table that said Alaska trip. Their whole life,
like growing up, their whole life,
their whole entire life, there was a jar on the counter that said Alaska trip. And he says, I had to break that jar 1,000 times. They have I think they have 7 or 8 kids, and so he just never could save enough up, and so emotional. Me. So yeah,
getting to be part of that.
Yeah, I can't talk when I cry. It's so annoying. Drives me crazy because some people can talk through it. But he put his arms around me in Alaska.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think it's because, for being your wife, I can say, I think it's from being so appreciative because you were raised in a certain way of this mortality, this imminent mortality, and that we only have one life. I think that it makes you so much more in tune with the things that are happening outside of even yourself. It's like you're in tune with they're happening to you, but you're now so connected to that it's happening to other people, because you've seen it with like your grandpa as well. You've seen it with all these other people that you've created all of these experiences with. Well, I got to wrap it up anyway. I got to go get our kid. But I'm just saying, I think I see it because I know that because of who you are and how you were raised, and this thought behind everything you do is constantly, how do I live with more purpose? And so when you see it happening in other people and you got to be part of it, it affects you deeply. I think so too. But
yeah, it was.
Well, I'll let you off the hook, babe.
Yeah, no, sorry about that. I hate that. I apologize to the listeners.
Don't hate that. Don't apologize.
I know. They don't. They're not on here to listen to
the reason that makes it so.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the.
Thanks for recording with me. You've got one more month free. December's still free, right?
Yeah,
go join the Genesis.
Yep. So M42adventures.com is our website. We have a podcast, which is also M42 Adventures. You can go listen to me cry a little more. I think there's 35 or 40 episodes over there. We've interviewed some really cool people. Ryan Mickler is a partner in this, so he's got me some really good contacts of some names that like Revitalized Woman. He was a partner on Revitalized Womanhood as well. So he helped us get started and get going. And so yeah, the podcast, M42 Adventures, and then our online community is called the Genesis, which means the start. And I thought that was pretty fitting. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're growing our community. There's 73 of us in there right now. We're going into December. It is free for the month of December, and then we will start charging. The people in the Genesis, you get access to mentors for all the different things, financial mentors, from getting out of debt to retiring early to investing. I mean, I've done all of that. I know you gotta go, babe, but
Relationships,
yeah, relationship,
travel.
parkour, fitness, travel, firearms,
Yeah.
motorcycles, all the things, and we're adding more all the time. We actually have a woman coming in. I'm trying to get her to come in. She's all excited about it, but she's the hiking mentor. She's a professional guide here in Southern Utah at Zion National Park. So we're adding mentors all the time, and that's what we're really
Watch for the
focusing
outdoor
on.
cooking experiences,
Yep.
here local. That's gonna be super fun. I'm
Yep.
excited about that.
Yeah, we've got a giveaway coming up that's going to be amazing, and we're going to be giving away an adventure here in Southern Utah that's going to be absolutely insane. It's at our,
Yeah,
it's a
insane
couple, yeah,
giveaway.
yeah. So we're working on, yeah, you know, so we're working on that,
Mhm.
and yeah, just trying to grow the community, get more people in here. Without people, this doesn't really work out, and so we need you in here. And the value there is going to be discounts on experiences, first right of refusal. We have 7 experiences in 2025 and 6 are sold out. So we're selling these out faster than we had planned. We're trying to add more, but we have to work on the semantics of that and the scheduling and things like that. So I've had a lot of people reach out saying, "Hey, I missed the opportunity to go to Alaska or Hawaii or Costa Rica." And I says, "Well, that's just because we're sending it to our, close email
Yeah,
list."
sending it to
And
the inside inclusive group first.
yeah, so if you want to come out and do one of these, I encourage you to be in the Genesis. That's going to be the people who get first right of refusal, and then there'll be just other perks we're adding all the time. So yeah, that's how you find. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the good things. And then my personal Instagram is onelife.solive. So if you want to follow me on there, then you're welcome to.
Thanks, babe. Appreciate you.
Thanks, babe. I appreciate you too. I think people don't realize what we do for these communities and what we give up and what we sacrifice. And so I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of us, and I'm excited for what we are going to do going forward. I think that what we're doing is needed in this world, and we deserve a pat on the back. And
If
I
only
really
from
do.
each other.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it feels like that. But then I was just gonna, my next sentence was all the people who support us. You know, that I've got people
Yeah.
here, and you have people around you, and so I want to tell those people that I sincerely appreciate them sharing our stuff, liking, talking about it. It seems so simple. Buying our shirts. You know, my parents came out to my firearm class, and I know that they don't need to take a firearm class. And I says, "Thanks for coming."
Yeah.
They said, "We're here for you." And so the people who support us, we appreciate, and we're trying to do big things, and I think we will. And so thanks for having me on.
All right, babe. Love you.
I love you. Bye.